Hi, everyone, on this rainy day in the Northwest. How are you doing? Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I am Brittany Miles, the host of Miles to Go with myself, How to Lose to Gain It All. And we're going to have a really good time today. We're going to dive deep into false evidence appearing real. So I think a lot of people might know that acronym as fear. What are you afraid of, right? Fear grips us all. Everything we fear usually never comes, never happens. Our minds shape the reality. So, like that bicycle with a towel and other things on top of it, looks like the boogeyman in the middle of the night. But once the sun comes and clears out the darkness, we see that it's just a bicycle. So, mindfulness, especially surrender, helps us to stop that heart stopping fear and gives us the gift of the present moment. So, I want to talk about how I got through some very painful times and gotten over fear of things happening to me, and how I realized that, as I used the metaphor before, going from the darkness to the light, seeing what I actually had and not being afraid of it. It doesn't mean that I still have fear. As human beings, we're programmed to look for threats because our minds say we have to look for safety. But we're going to talk through that a little bit. We're going to be using some source material from the venerable Buddhist monk, writer, author, poet Thich Nhat Hanh. Uh, he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Martin Luther King. And he's done a lot of social justice work throughout the world. And he's the founder of Plum Village Worldwide. And we're going to take a lot from a Tricycle article, which was an excerpt from his 2010 book, which was called Freedom of Fear. And if you're interested, feel free to email the show. I can send you links to the Tricycle article and links to his book. If you haven't read him, please do. You will have a new take and lease on life. But one thing I do want to talk about before we dive into today's topic is that the Ultimate Women's Business Summit continues today. I'm a featured influencer. Speaking about the life you save may be your own. We've talked about this in different ways. I taught a class on this, but there's a different take today in my video. So you can check out my video and another great speaker today at www.theultimatewomansbusinesssummit.com. This is absolutely free, and the videos are available for 24 hours. If you want to view the slate of all the wonderful women that are speaking this week, you can buy a VIP ticket and then you'll have those videos available. But if you want to check out me today, please go to www.theultimatewomansbusinesssummit.com. I'll see you there. I hope you enjoy it. Alrighty then. So let's talk about fear. Okay, so we talked about the boogeyman, but what do you fear? Do you fear losing your love, your husband, your wife, your partner, whatever, your boo, your bae? Do you fear losing your kids, losing them to the world, to violence, to their own desires that are not your desires? Do you feel losing your house? That's an omnipresent fear given what's going on in the world today. And there are people that are struggling with that. And that's a real fear. I've had that fear. Are you afraid of losing a job? Again, another omnipresent fear, especially in this time with COVID. There are a lot of people living with a lot of uncertainty. And again, I understand those sleepless nights, the red rimmed eyes, the trying to figure out, should I pay this bill or that bill? What's the most important need? Praying that we don't need to go to the doctor for anything. I mean, we could fill in the blank. You could be afraid of spiders. You could be afraid of heights. I'm afraid of heights. You could be afraid of driving on I-5. That was a very prevalent fear when I first started driving here in Seattle, because people fly on that or whatever interstate. It could be a fear of being lost, something that I had when I was a child, a fear of abandonment. Could be anything. But fear, as I started off the show with, is false evidence appearing real. We tend to focus on the A and the R in that. If it's true, to our minds, it's that, you know, I don't know which bill to pay because I don't have a job. That appears real because you physically have a bill and you are physically trying to figure out how you're going to pay for it, right? By looking at your bank account, right? Trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, as I used to say when I was a child. But what you have is false evidence. Potentially, there's always an outside case or chance, but there is the possibility that what you're worrying about may never come to pass. I have worried about losing my home. So, for example, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, in 2016, I was struggling. I didn't have consistent work like I used to. I couldn't pay my mortgage. So I had to start looking at, well, how am I going to make that dollar into 15 cents? How am I going to pay that mortgage? And again, those were lots of late nights figuring things out. But again, surrender came in a little bit later on and helped me to get out of the fear and realizing that I had a lot of false evidence that I kept replaying in my mind instead of looking at what was. And when you look at what was or what is, you can probably find new solutions that you never saw before. Our brains have tracks or tapes. I think that's something that's familiar, especially if you've done some transactional analysis TA work. They talk a lot about having tapes, and you replay those over and over and over again in your mind, which is, don't quote me, it leads to neuroplasticity and creating those pathways in your brain. So when X happens, you'll have Y response. And it's just this infinity loop of this action and then reaction. But if you start to use surrender and mindfulness, you can start to alter those neural pathways and change that neuroplasticity so that you create a new model for yourself. And we'll talk about that a little bit later too. But let's go back to, why do we have fear in our lives? Our culture makes us insecure. There's a lot of rugged individualism, especially in the United States, and I would say Western Europe as well. The focus is on the I, the individual, and it's how I can succeed and how I can become number one. So culture tells us all the time, you must be independent, you must be number one, everyone else is out to get you. Not to say that we walk around with this like blaring front of mind, but it is in the back of our mind because it's replayed in different pieces and parts of our lives. There are things that we hear through our families, our friends, through professional sports, through corporate America. It's the thought that there's not enough for everyone, so I have to make sure that I got mine, right? Kind of leads us back to COVID and the toilet paper and everybody wanting toilet paper. It's also about keeping up with the Joneses. You want to make sure that you have just as much, if not more, than your neighbor or your siblings, or that part of the American dream is that, children will do better than their parents. That's an inherent belief system. So if you have come from limited means, you have the ability to become anything that you want. You could be a corporate CEO, you could be president of the United States, you could own your own business, you could do whatever. So that fear of not measuring up is always there. That's why there's a pecking order always within our society. The person that has the most means is the person that's most important. The person with the least means is the person that's always scrambling and feeling insecure, right? It also leads into that craving of never having enough. If you look at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any TV show that you stream, any award show, you are sold that dream that, being rich and famous is the way to go. There are no problems, life is easy, and you always want more, especially I think in the United States. And again, also in Western Europe, but it's always that more, 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 more. The more I have, the better I feel. And that could be money, drugs, alcohol, shopping, food. The more I have, the better I feel. And that's not true. I've gone down those paths and I still feel like there's a big hole. Some would say a God-sized hole inside of me because there's still that craving, that longing, because something's missing. There's something that you're running from. And what you're looking for with all of those things is security. Security. It's that lack of security which drives the fear. And with that, I'm going to stop right here and we'll talk about this a little bit more on the other side of the break. I am Brittany Miles, the host of Miles to Go with Brittany Miles, How to Lose to Gain It All. And our topic today is false evidence appearing real. And we will continue to talk about how craving and longing drive that running away from fear. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's Brittany Miles, the host of Miles to Go with Brittany Miles, How to Lose to Gain It All. And we are talking about false evidence appearing real or fear. We all have something we fear. We can fear the boogeyman, we can fear spiders, we could fear slugs, a real thing for me. You could fear losing your spouse, your love, your kids, your house, your job, anything, fill the blank. But today we want to talk about how to work through that fear and what fear is trying to tell us. In the last segment, we were talking about how fear is a fundamental driver and consequently through craving everything that culture tells us that we should desire: more money, bigger houses, nice cars. For some, that takes a negative, which is, could be drugs, could be alcohol, could be shopping, could be sex, what have you. But there is that craving, that longing, that God-sized hole, which is where our fear resides. And we can talk about how mindfulness and surrender can be the way that we heal that and take a look at all of that ugly, yucky, messy stuff inside. But before we move on with the discussion, I want to talk about something that I've been a part of, especially today. It's the Ultimate Women's Business Summit, and that has started on 9/21 and it goes through 9/30. I'm actually a featured influencer today, speaking about the life you save may be your own, something that I've talked about here. I think that was my first show. I also taught a class on it, and I touch on it here in just about every episode. So if you want to check out my video and another great speaker today at www.theultimate women's business absolutely free. The videos are available for 24 hours. If you would like more of the videos so that you could keep them on hand, so you can look at them at your leisure, there's a way to become a VIP on the site and you can purchase the access to the videos. So again, it is the Ultimate Women's Business Summit. You can find me there at www.theultimatewomensbusinesssummit.com. All right, I'll see you there. So, picking it up again. I don't know how many of you might be familiar with the tarot. In the tarot, there's a card called the Tower. And when you see the Tower, if you are getting a reading, a lot of people go, oh my God, no. Because if you know, you know. The card is depicted as a tower on fire with a lightning bolt coming in, people jumping out of the building to save their lives. And you see wreck and ruin and rubble as the people fly out of the building. So pretty much not a positive, doesn't seem like a positive card. A lot of people think of it like the death card. Oh my God, what's going to happen now? It's about change. Or, oh my goodness, what could happen next? And it's actually a good thing. Change is good. Everything changes. That the only thing that stays the same is change. And in 2016, I would like to say 2016 was my 2020 where everything went wrong. Nothing, I had no expectation of this. I thought life as we know it would continue on as I knew it, but no. I lost a few things. I lost my home. I lost jobs, job opportunities. I lost a lot of long-term friends. I lost family. I constantly was in a state of angst and anxiety because I couldn't control what was going on around me. I was afraid that I wouldn't have enough money. I remember being on the floor in my old living room, pounding on the, the floor in a row, screaming, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough. I felt insecure. I was and still am a single working mom, a working professional. I would have, money crunches like we all do time to time, but I just couldn't deal. My ex-husband couldn't really help me. He had his own struggles. And all I could do was just not breathe. I'm trying to think about how to say that. I couldn't catch my breath. I just there was always something. And I felt like I was panting and panting and panting. I was afraid to wake up every day, but I had an 8-year-old, so I had to make it. I had to pretend that everything was fine and I could put on a brave face, but I think she knew. Children always know it's energy. They can tell when you're different. I was depressed. I was not taking my anxiety medicine. So I was probably really touchy. I was very irritable. I think my child might have been afraid of me. My fear was so bad that I had to one day go to the ER because I was having a panic attack because I got some new information, which really compounded family trauma, which blew me away. And I drove myself and my 8-year-old to the ER, which is crazy, but it was clearly all safely. And luckily the hospital was very close to me. And I got the support and medication that I needed. And then after that, I started to realize I was living in a world of madness. The madness of my own thoughts, and my own thoughts shape my reality. Because whatever we think, that's what we see. I read somewhere years ago, and I can't recall the source, so forgive me, is that the world is a neutral place. It's how we view it, which helps it to take form. So I'll say that again. The world is a neutral place. It's our thoughts about what's happening, which helps us to create how the world will then take form. So one could look at the United States of America at this point in time. I'm staying apolitical here, so hear me out, please, and say, wow, we got a lot going on, right? But how I react to what's going on will shape my reality. Yes, there are very big issues with COVID. I focus on the good that I have, the fact that our family is safe. I have the ability to provide for my family, and that my child is secure and I'm able and fortunate enough to homeschool. And I also have the ability to help others. So I have a sense of compassion for others in this situation, as well as compassion for myself, because some things we can still find and get, but some things we can't. And parts of me want to have the perfect life and perfect home, and that's just not going to happen now. So sitting with the pain that arises from the fear is what we're going to continue to talk about. Because once you start to slow down, you realize a lot of stuff is crazy. And during my medicated week coming down off my panic attack, I was able to sit in silence with myself. A lot of us don't want to sit in that silence. Why? That silence, that's the fear. That's when we're going to hit the hole that I've been talking about, that hole of craving, that God-sized hole or universe-sized hole or self-sized hole where we feel scared, where we feel numb, where we feel lost, where we feel hurt, where we feel confused. That's the muck, the mire, the messiness. That's the core of who we are. Because in our culture, again, we are told that we are not enough. And we are enough. But by getting still, you can start to ask yourself some interesting questions. Not unlike the rain exercise that Mary Angela McGuire and I have been talking about in the previous 2 shows, where what am I feeling? Where do I feel it? What exactly am I afraid of? What's hurting me? Who hurt me? What do I need in this moment? What would help me to feel better? What type of support? These are the types of questions that you can ask yourself. Once you start down that questioning path, you'll start to find the answers that you're looking for. That stillness is so scary. And if you stay with it, you're going to get the answers that you need. Because you have every answer. The answer isn't outside of you. Your mom doesn't have it. Your dad doesn't have it. Your spouse doesn't have it. Your kids don't have it. There's nothing outside of you. Everything's inside of you. And with that, I'm going to put a pin in it. And we will come back and talk more about the stillness and how I work through the stillness. And I'll talk about a fear that I had last night and how I worked through my stillness. And you are here listening to me, Brittany Miles, the host of Miles to Go with Brittany Miles, How to Lose to Gain It All. And we're talking about false evidence appearing real. We are talking about fear and why we have fear, how we feel lost, how we have that big hole of craving. And within that hole, that craving mass, all of the pain, anguish, anxiety, and stuff that we have pushed down, which manifests itself as fear. So stay tuned and we're going to talk how to get through that. See you on the other side of the break. Welcome back. This is Brittany Miles of Miles to Go, How to Lose to Gain It All. Yeah, we're talking about some good stuff behind the scenes. So what we're talking about today is false evidence appearing real or fear. And we've been talking about how culture teaches us that we're not enough and that we have this craving and longing to be, do, and have more. And all of that excess is really driving a fundamental fear that we have. Within that hole, as I call it, a God-sized hole, it could be universe-sized hole, person-sized hole, whatever you want to call that hole. But within it, that's where our fear is lodged. And underneath all that fear, we find all the things that we don't like about ourselves or don't like about our lives. And all of that craving and longing is just so messy because it's been piled upon and piled upon and piled upon throughout our life, because we've always been told something isn't right about us, whether it's within our family of origins, within our friend groups, when people are, putting each other down as, something cute and funny, to rejection in the dating world, rejection in the work world, or just rejection in the world, period. We're being told that there's something wrong with us and you are perfect and fine as you are. But within that messiness, we realize that we're just running. And if we keep running from the things that are bothering us and hiding it with all the other stuff on top of it, we're not really living our lives. We are robbed of our lives. We're robbed of meaningful moments with ourselves, meaningful moments with our family and friends, and positive growth. I truly believe we've all been put on this earth to learn something. We are here to do something to better the place that we are. We have everything that we need. We just need to start tuning out the things that we just don't need to hear. And I think Buddhist psychology helps us really well with that through meditation and being and other mindfulness tools. One of the tools that I like, and I call myself an accidental Buddhist. Yes, I had known what Buddhism was. I had read Buddhism, but didn't apply it. So in 2016, I found a lot of accidental Buddhist practices that I self-discovered during that time. And one of them is I call stillness. It's that time when you sit alone, and as much as you try to do something to get away from it by creating new busyness, new drama, doesn't happen. You are forced by the universe to sit down, stay down, and focus on what you need to get right in your life. That happened to me in 2016. As I was saying, I went to the ER. I had a panic attack. I was running from so much stuff in my life, especially family of origin trauma, and that blew up in my face, along with everything else in my year. And I was forced into that stillness. So I sat in that stillness. And again, I said in the last segment that I asked myself a lot of questions. And the questions are only the questions that you need. So, because you know everything you need to do and all the answers are inside of you. And I asked myself, what is happening? What is going on? Why am I unhappy? Because I finally said it out loud. Why am I so unhappy? Why am I sad? And from there, I started to feel, and a lot of stuff is stored in our bodies, all of those deep repressed emotions. Once I started questioning, started to feel it rise. And for me, it's rising up through my chest and my neck. For somebody else, it could be their back, it could be the front of their head, they could feel like they're getting a migraine, could be their foot twitches, don't know. But for me, it's the center of the chest and neck, and it started to come up. And I could still feel it as I'm still talking about it, because that stuff is still there. I worked through all one layer, and I'm working through another layer still to this day, where I realized that the veil was being lifted. I realized the things that I thought were true were not true, right? That was the false evidence, right? And it appeared real. Going back to the metaphor from the beginning of the show, I thought the bicycle in the dark in my room with the towel with a rope and other things on top of it, maybe laundry, was the boogeyman. And I'm realizing the boogeyman was really me. I had created so much stuff just to run away from it. I had so many walls, so many defenses, but sitting in the stillness, all of that stuff started to melt away. And for me, the key was realizing that I had sadness, and I had profound sadness. And it's at that point I started to deal with the really deep and profound, hard feelings. As humans, we want to stay in a place where we feel good. However, we can't do that all the time, right? We have to come to a place of homeostasis. So equilibrium. So I had to get past all of that negative stuff, and I had to do a lot of deep work. And that's when I talk about things being really, really messy, really, really messy. Once I realized if I sat with those feelings, I could stay in the present moment. It was hard. It was very hard. So, working with my breath, working with meditation, I was able to sit with these really troubling emotions and start to identify them. Did I sit with them for long periods of time? No. It'd be like, oh, I'm angry with this person. Okay. I am I? And I would go through, why am I angry with this person? What happened? And I would journal away. Then I would look at something and say, you know what? I don't want to live in this house. Why did I want this house? What was going on with that? It's okay if I lose it. I can move someplace else. Oh, okay. So it was going through those periods of self-examination and sitting with those feelings and not trying to cover up that feeling with a bottle of Pinot Grigio or a really expensive dinner out or another blouse or another pair of heels that I didn't need. I didn't need those things to kind of take that pain away. I got to sit with it. So, an example, yesterday I got some very troubling news about a family member and their health. And this is something that we've been struggling with. We've been working to ameliorate their problems, but it's been tough. And when I got the information, I needed to be strong for that family member. But when I was alone later on, after I finished speaking with them, I had some really powerful emotions, again, right here in my chest, going up to my throat, and a little bit in my back. For me, the center here is really my heart. That's my heart chakra. And I was in pain, but I continued to do things around the house. And then I said to myself, let's sit down. Let's sit with this. I have now learned some new ways of being. So I said, no, I need to sit with this. And I sat with it and I started asking myself, what's wrong? And I said, I hurt. That's how I start. I hurt. The voice inside of me says, I hurt. And I said, what hurts? And it's like, I don't know what hurts. It's like, okay. And I waited to see if something else came up. Nothing else came up. But throughout the evening, I kept having that sadness and I kept feeling anxious and at odds with myself. But the feeling became stronger and stronger. And I wanted to mask the pain by buying something for myself. Didn't need to. Because after I sat with it, I started to walk through the fact that I hurt. I listened to that voice and gave it room to talk. The voice then said it was sad. And then the voice said, I need to cry. I am not a crier, not as an adult. As a child, I was much more openly emotional. As an adult, I'm not. But I felt the tears after saying this or hearing this from the voice. I felt the tears start to form. And I put down my device in which I was reading something, and I just felt them at the sides and then just started to well up. And then I started to really cry. And I allowed myself to have that depth of emotion. And I sat with my dog next to me who was licking me. And I just let myself have a really good cry, a good, ugly, Kim Kardashian-esque ugly cry. And I heard all the things inside it. It's like, I heard from myself, it's that I don't know what to do. I need someone to help me. Who can help me? Please, someone help me. And that's what I needed. And from getting quiet, I was able to hear those voices, deal with the mess that was inside of me, and come to some resolution about my fear. I'm still working on it today, but I was able to work through it. So with that, we're going to get ready for another break. So thank you for listening to me, Brittany Miles. I'm the host of Miles to Go with Brittany Miles, How to Lose to Gain It All. We'll see you after the break. We're talking about false evidence appearing real or fear. Stay tuned. We are talking about false evidence appearing real or fear, right? Everyone's got a boogeyman and things that frighten them. And today we've been really talking and stepping through how to manage fear. But before we get back to our topic, I'd like to talk about something that I've been a part of and super excited, and I'd love to share it with you. So this week, 9/21 through 9/30, the Ultimate Women's Business Summit continues. And today, yes, today, I am a featured influencer and I'm speaking about the life you save may be your own, something I've talked about here on my show. I taught a class on it, as well as sprinkling it through every episode. If you want to check out my video today and another great speaker, go to www.theultimatewomensbusinesssummit.com. Absolutely free, and the videos are available for 24 hours. So if you want to see me today, you got to get in today. If you're interested in having access to all the videos after the summit or during the summit, do check out the website, and there is an option to become a VIP so you can have access. So you'll have an all access pass, and there might be other things that you can get. So again, I'm a part of the Ultimate Women's Business Summit. My video on the life you save may be your own is available today at www.theultimatewomensbusinesssummit.com. Thank you. So to continue and kind of wrap up the topic today about fear, I was talking last segment about sitting in stillness or silence or just being alone, so you can actually hear the voices inside of you that want the healing and need the healing. Some could be a little 5-year-old version of you, or a 25-year-old version, or a 50-year-old you. And I shared how I was sitting in stillness yesterday, and I got to slow down. Even when I started to create busyness and drama for myself, I sat down, got to hear those voices, and they told me what I needed to hear, because all your answers, all the questions and all the answers are inside of you. And it enabled me to show myself compassion. It allowed me to be vulnerable and enabled me to cry. As an adult, it's very difficult for me to show emotion unless it's something extremely tragic. I built up all the walls and defenses because as a child, I was called overly emotional, and there's no such thing. So once I was done being quiet, and having that cry, and I'm still working through this today, I have a lot of self-compassion for myself. And we talked about self-compassion last show with Dr. Mary Angela McGuire, and I'm allowing myself that bit of grace, and I'm allowing myself some vulnerability. I am allowing myself to feel my feelings. I'm asking myself and checking in with myself throughout the day. What am I feeling? How do I feel about this feeling? Where is it in my body? As we discussed, a lot of stuff starts here and then goes here, clenching my jaw a little bit. But once I feel it here rising up, I have to let it go. So I'm becoming more attuned to what's in my body and where I store my unpleasant, negative, sad emotion, right? I'm also thinking through, what are all the sensations that I'm feeling? I found that I've got some low back pain today. I've got a headache, ever so slightly irritable, and I just feel like I'm very sensitive and on the edge of tears, like something could happen. But what I'm doing mostly is loving myself through this, and giving myself, as I said, that grace, because if I don't do it, no one else will. I wanted to work through these feelings on my own before I share them with a friend, and I might share them with a friend, but I've shared them with all of you, so you are all of my friends. Some other things that I have done and I do recommend, obviously through mindfulness, and have helped me immeasurably with surrender, is just simple meditations. One doesn't have to just sit and go, you could just close your eyes. And what the venerable monk Thich Nhat Hanh will say, you could try this, is breathing in, I have arrived. Well, let me do that again. So breathing in, I have arrived, and exhaling out, I'm at home. So you can think about the arrival and the home being yourself, your body. So let's just try that again. Breathe in. You can close your eyes. And in just that, I am back to the present moment and I have a sense of calm. Where there was anxiety and angst here, I realizing that once I breathe in, I'm arriving back into my body. And once I exhale out, I know that that breath was received and I am at home. And when I'm at home and I am present, I can heal myself and I can surrender. And those are so important. As I said earlier in the show, um, fear just robs you of your life. You're constantly running. It robs you of the present moment. It robs you of meaningful connections in the present, meaningful connections with friends and family, and a meaningful connection with yourself. It's important that we take care of ourselves, we sit with ourselves, and allow ourselves to recognize, allow, inquire, nurture, and give ourselves the self compassion to deal with the fear. We don't have to live with fear. Fear does not have to be the master. You can overcome your fear. By doing a lot of these things, I walked into my destiny. I became a different person. I got to deal with those difficult emotions. I got to make different choices because I had new data. I changed the way that I looked at the world. We talked about that. It's that the world's a neutral place, but I saw it in a different way than I had ever seen it before. And I saw a lot of good and not so much bad. Without me dealing with my fear, I never would have gotten this show because it took me on a path of many different things over the past 4 years, which got me into a place where I'm doing the thing that I am meant to do, born to do, and love doing. This is my passion. That's how I walked into my destiny. Am I done? No. As I said, I still have issues with my family member. I still have fear, but I now have skills and I'm equipped to deal with it. And if I'm not equipped, I know what my resources are. So, to wrap up today, we scare ourselves to death. Focus on what is. Everything in your fear is nothingness. Slow down. Stop running. Take a breath. Remember that exercise bike in the dark with the towel and the rope and the laundry isn't the boogeyman. The boogeyman is your thoughts about the bike. Because once the cleansing sunlight comes, you'll see what is. And with that, friends, take care. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Take a deep breath of life. Thank you. Goodbye.